Welcome back to Beer Fueled Fantasy Football. It's Wednesday, which means we're going to jump into the lounge, give you our start sits of the week, and then make sure to let you know what's going to happen here on Thursday night. Also, we'll recap what happened Monday night as well. I'm Nick Sparts. Joined across the table for me over my giant monitor is Dan Thury.
At Thury BFF. What's up, Wilson?
You're bragging about your monitor size. I am way out of sorts right now. I forgot to take the logo off. I forgot to start the audio stream at the start, so I just started it at the can pop. I'm trying to get notes pulled up. I'm not in a good way right now.
And Christopher Hopper in a real rough spot.
Yeah, sorry for the clusterfuck of a start, guys.
All right, if you want to follow the clusterfuck on Twitter, it is at HopBFF with 2 Ps.
Yeah.
If you want to follow the show, it is Beer Fueled FF on Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped, Beer Fueled Fantasy Football, YouTube, and Facebook. If you want to watch us live during the episodes, we generally go live close to about 5:45. We're a little late today, going about 6. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Because
I wasn't going to blame you.
Clusterfuck also forgot the beer.
We also go live Sunday mornings about 10:30 a.m. This is all Central Time, so if you're in a different time zone, adjust accordingly. We'll do your best to answer your questions during in-between segments on weekday shows, and on Sundays, it's almost strictly for you guys' questions. Bring as many as you want. If you can, like our videos, comment on them. It helps boost their visibility. Drop reviews on iTunes. That also helps boost the podcast in audio format. If you want to help us out even more, 3 additional ways you can do that. You can hit us up for merchandise, DM BeerFueledFF on Twitter or beerfueledfantasyfootball@gmail.com. Hit us up for shirts or hats. You can hit us up for our Patreon information if you want to support us financially that way. Or the last option that a few people have taken us up on is send us beer. We have a pretty limited selection we get here in the Springfield, Illinois area. It's basically going to be Chicago, St. Louis, and then some of the bigger distributors out of Michigan, Colorado, or even further out than that. They have to be a really big distributor. So if you want something that's more local or regional to your spot, send it to us. We'll absolutely put it on the air for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, beer.
Yeah, beer. Speaking of beer, is that a transition?
That would be a transition.
Beer Fuel.
So what was the delay was getting this beer. We have Hunter by 18th Street Brewing Company. 18th Street's based out of Hammondale, Indiana. This is their second time on the show. Previous appearance was episode 113. Rookie Quarterbacks Part 1 earlier in the spring here. And Hunter is a double milk stout, comes in at 8% ABV, has notes of vanilla, lactose, and caramel. Dan and Hopper will give you a full review later in the episode.
Is Nick still not drinking?
Nick is still not drinking.
And breaking news, Nick won't drink beer.
News.
Continuing on to news, Florida Football Insiders reports a source having knowledge of the Jaguars' thinking, which is a strange way of putting it, expects the team to sit Leonard Fournette with his hamstring injury through the Week 9 bye.
I guess this. I mean, get him healthy. You're a great football team that's ready to make the playoffs. That's ready to hopefully be built through the playoffs here. You don't want to lose your star running back.
Well, as long as
season.
And as long as TJ Yeldon's performing, they just went out and signed Jamal Charles as an insurance policy who was relatively effective in limited work last year. You don't need to rush him back, get him right, and then bring him back.
Yep.
All right. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reports Devonta Freeman with a now foot injury. His status is in doubt for Week 6 against the Buccaneers.
You know what? I just kind of hope that he's back to not playing because that makes everything clear there. You don't have the 3-headed bunny rabbit.
It's not a monster.
Bunny rabbit.
Yeah, it's not a monster, so I tried to think of something fluffy and not threatening.
He just needs to get healthy. I mean, this team is in shambles at this point. They have no defense. So there's no reason to rush him back. The season's almost lost at this point.
Yeah, they're already 1-4. Darren Sproles with his hamstring injury is out for Week 6 against the Giants. That is the Thursday night game.
More Corey Clement.
And Smallwood.
More Corey Clement.
As noted earlier, Jaguars signed running back Jamal Charles, and they waived running back Brian Wild, so they're back down to 2 running backs.
Brandon?
Yeah?
You said Brian.
Oh, did I?
Yeah. Who cares?
I don't think his mom knows his name either. So.
Yeah, Jamal Charles is interesting. It's going to be a lot of TJ Yeldon this week because you're going to have to get Charles up to speed. So if he does play, it's going to be a very
limited.
Very limited.
Coach Frank Reich said T.Y. Hilton with his hamstring injury and Jack Doyle with his hip injury remain week to week. Both are not expected to play in Week 6.
So
Jesus.
Eric Ebron, volume-based start, very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the wide receivers, I'm still not in love with any of this. It's Ryan Grant, Chester Rogers, and oh my God, I need somebody situation.
Who do they play this week?
New York Jets.
Oh,
Jets.
yeah. Oof. No.
The bad thing is that I only know that because of following Captain Andrew Luck on Facebook.
That's
and
right, they are. I always retweet his shit.
He's been talking about fighting the Jetmen
And then Evan
or
Ingram
airplane men.
with his knee injury is out for week 6 against the Eagles. It is expected he'll be back for week 7.
That's okay.
Makes sense. Precautionary.
Rhett Ellison.
Who's also dinged up but is expected to
Don't
go.
do it.
Don't.
Just
Please
stay away
don't
from
do
that.
it.
It's another week of Sterling.
More on
Shepard.
that later.
It's another week of Sterling Shepard is what that means.
All right. On to did not practice on Wednesdays. I don't know if you have a drop for this or not.
I have the injury drop, but we can just do it.
All right. Isaiah Crowell with an ankle injury did not practice on Wednesday.
Okay.
T.Y. Hilton with chest and hamstring issues remained sidelined at Wednesday's practice. I didn't see the chest tag earlier.
We talked about that already.
Eric Ebron, shin, quad, ankle, knee, did not practice on Wednesday.
Holy God.
Eric Swoop season.
It might not be Ebron. It might be Swope. Is there anything on Eric Ebron that's not hurt?
Not below the waist.
They're going to like...
Jesus.
Jesus.
Just sounds banged
Yikes.
up.
And then Jack Doyle hip remained sidelined as mentioned before.
All right.
All right, time to recap Monday night.
What the hell happened?
What the hell happened?
All right, this one was supposed to be a bit of a barn burner. The points were there. Saints won 43-19. It just wasn't very competitive. Hopper, what happened?
The Saints completely stomped all over the Redskins.
That is pretty much what happened.
Cool.
You want a little more than that?
I was hoping for a little more detail.
Alex Smith was still him this week. 275, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Chris Thompson, marginally okay as long as you were in a PPR league. 8 receptions, 45 yards. Adrian Peterson totaled 42 yards, but only had 6 rushing yards on 4 attempts. That was game script mostly. They were playing from behind the entire time.
And Peterson got hurt.
And that. Jamison Crowder, he actually showed some signs of life. 8 targets, 4 receptions, 55 yards. Maybe just allowing him to hang around on your roster for a little bit longer. Richardson, same neighborhood, 4 receptions on 5 targets for 50 yards. And then Jordan Reed was only targeted twice for whatever reason.
I think teams just don't know how to attack the Saints. They're just like, let's attack them over the middle, not deep, where they seem to be very ineffective. They just let this shit happen.
I don't get it.
I don't get any of it. As for the Saints, Breeze was an efficient 26 of 29 for 363, 3 touchdowns. So not a ton of attempts, but you don't need them when you don't have to punt all game.
Jesus.
Mark Ingram handled 18 touches to Kamara's 9. Again, I think this is more game script because they were ahead. He racked off 53 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. There's 2 receptions for 20 yards for Ingram there also. Kamara only had 39 scrimmage yards in this one.
He was banged up, and it was one of those games where he got a lot of work the first 4 weeks, and there was no reason to give him more when you got a fresh Ingram coming off the suspension.
You got a fresh Ingram who's not banged up, and they're playing ahead, so there's no reason for Kamara there. But it's just something to watch in the future. If it's going to be a negative game script for him, you may have to consider that.
Yeah, and Kamara looked fine in the carries he got, so he should be okay.
Yep, not worried about that. Traquan Smith flashed some. 3 targets, so you're not really going to run him out there week to week, but he caught all 3 for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's a good news for dynasty owners. It's a good news going forward. You probably don't have him rostered right now, but he should probably be watch listed just in case he does grab hold on that number 3. As for number 2, Cam Meredith, Michael Thomas, both had 5 targets, around 70 yards for each of them. Cam Meredith right now I think is firmly entrenched. Well, Ted Ginn's hurt though, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's going to be more of as long as Ginn's out, Cam Meredith is kind of a wide receiver 4 type of start because he's getting that type of volume, but when Ginn comes back, that's just going to throw a wrench in all of that.
And since they're on bye this week, I assume Ginn will be back next
After
week.
the bye week, I would too. And Ben Watson, Josh Hill, they split work again. Watson, 4 targets, 4 receptions, 30 yards. Hill, 2 targets, 2 receptions, 24 and a touchdown. So tight end position still has no clarity there.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
All right. That's all we got for Monday night. Let's go ahead and jump into the lounge.
Fantasy mock draft.
Hey, guys, look!
It's the real Buzz Lightyear.
You're mocking me,
That
aren't
was
you?
the old
no,
drop.
no.
That was disappointing. Hold on.
You tried to layer the drops
I
there?
was trying to mix them just on the soundboard, and I put the old drop on there, and I didn't want to do the old drop.
All right, well,
I have not-
as he revealed there, we are doing a
Fantasy mock draft.
That
You're
we're
mocking
doing
me,
that. I was
aren't
just finishing your sentence. We also have questions that I'm just going to talk over this drop for because I was totally
Oh,
forgetting
shit.
that YouTube is there. Sorry,
Our
guys.
bad, guys. Our
That's
bad.
our bad. Well, if you weren't here for the start, I am all out of sorts right now, trying to get a move prepped and everything. Should I start Alfred Moore? Jimmy wants to know if you should start Alfred Morris or Mohamed Sanu full PPR, saying Breida does not play.
assuming Brady does not play. I'm starting Morris.
Yes,
Correct.
or Sterling Shepard.
Oh,
They've got the Eagles, who's on Thursday night, whose secondary has not been good.
Say I go Shepard over. I think both of them.
It's probably Shepard, Morris, and Sanu in that order.
and then Morris would be last if Breida plays.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Sanu, though, they do have a barn burner of a game. Nick replied, it said he'd play Sanu over Morris. I could see the argument for that. But, yeah.
He's just been pretty inconsistent. So.
Yeah, I'd
that
rather
matchup
go
though is
Shepard. But
fucking tasty.
his argument was right, though. Almost as high of a floor, much higher ceiling on Sanu. That's true. If he could blow up in that scenario, but I'm going Shepard over both of those two.
Yes.
Okay, we can go on now.
All right. So we are doing a redraft. It is a mid-season redraft. So basically what we're doing is we're redrafting as if we had all the information from today, but it is still from the start of the season. So what this means is, so you know what injuries have happened, you know how depth charts are going to shake out, but you still have to deal with the first 5 weeks. So if you still had a suspension, so like Mark Ingram, he's not worth a second-round pick right now because you still have to take 4 weeks of zeros out of him, so you have to take that into an account. So each of us are going to give us their top 4 players remaining on the draft board, and then they're going to draft their favorite to their team, and effectively we're going to rank a top 60 here on the fly. I'm going to try to go through this relatively quickly, though. Dan, I gave you the early picks. We're not snaking this just to give us prep time.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if you're one of your top 4 picks and then picking a guy, let's say that 3 of those top 4 are also in my top 4. Do I use those for my top 4 or do
No,
I mark them off?
Those are gone.
Okay.
That's why this ends up being a top 60.
Wanted to make sure.
Oh, those are all gone.
Yep.
That was not clear on that.
Oh God. All
so
right.
we're pretty much taking 4 picks.
Okay.
Yep, and then you're picking your favorite of the 4.
Okay.
All right. Well, I guess I'm starting. That's how life works. My top 4 here, I guess, Todd Gurley, Melvin Gordon, Zeke, and Barkley. They've all been relatively the highest touch leaders, with the consistent being the same, should be the same throughout the season. My pick would be Todd Gurley, though.
All right. Hopper, you get the middle first.
All right. Antonio Brown, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Alvin Kamara. Picking a favorite out of this is going to come down to Antonio Brown. I'm probably going Antonio Brown here.
So who are the 4 I got?
Brown, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Alvin Kamara.
I missed Hopkins.
Hopkins, Adams, especially Adams, both very, very good starts to the season, but I don't think that I think Brown's going to course correct from kind of a slow start. You already started to see some of that last week, and we're still only over a quarter of the way through the season, so I would still put my chips on him doing what he normally does.
All right. My 4, I'm going to start going pretty receiver heavy here because we're starting to run out of consistent running backs. My one consistent running back that's left, that's an obvious kind of red flag for me, is Christian McCaffrey. Paired with that, I'm going to go Michael Thomas, Odell Beckham Jr., and A.J. Green as the 3 receivers I would take next to round out the top 12 guys here, and Michael Thomas is going to be my guy. So back to Dan at the top of the second.
My top 4 left is the last of the consensus top 4 picks to actually start this season, and David Johnson, Joe Mixon, Adam Thielen, and Julio Jones. I'm going to go with Adam Thielen here. A lot of this is the consistency that you get from him. He's the first receiver to ever go through 100 yards to start a season, and this team is throwing a shit ton, and they're going to keep throwing a shit ton because his defense isn't as elite as we all may think.
Yep. All right, so my next 4, I got one guy standing heads and toes above the rest. That's going to be, but my next 4 would be Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Stephon Diggs. My pick would be Kareem Hunt. You mentioned consistently working running backs. He felt gross to a lot of people. He's still a back end running back one. He is getting consistent work on a high powered offense. The receiving floor is not there, but he's really one of those guys that hasn't been affected by games or by an RBBC or injury.
Yep. You said Mike Evans, right?
Yeah.
He did.
Isn't that there? Okay.
All right, well, I'll get to my first tight ends in my group here. My group at this point, Jordan Howard kind of looks like the next running back up in terms of running backs I'd look at. Juju Smith-Schuster, Travis Kelce, and Keenan Allen would be the other three on my list
Oh, I
here.
forgot about him.
Which one?
Allen on my list.
I think I did too.
Well, this is about
Guys,
where
we
I
did
had him.
this, I guess, kind of
This is-
half-assed because we have a lot of sudden lives going on right now. So if we forget players, we apologize.
Yeah, it was kind of last minute that we got the rules on it, so we were rushing through it.
All right, and I'm going to go ahead and take, let's see what I take in the first round. I'll go ahead and take Jordan Howard. I don't love it here, but you're basically starting to run out of running backs worth a damn.
Yep.
All right, back to the top of the third.
All right, we're going to add some more tight ends to this mix because we have seen how bad tight ends have been this year. We got Gronk, Ertz, Lynch, and then Golden Tate. Just mixing in with some of these consistencies that are in here. I'm going to go with Zach Ertz here. As much as I even put Gronk ahead, but as much as Ertz has been consistent and should continue to be consistent, I think he may have leapfrogged Gronk as well.
Yeah, I would actually had when I redid these rankings, I actually had Gronk ahead of Ertz and had a Gronk as well.
All right, so this is ironically going to end up really difficult for me. My next four guys left are Le'Veon Bell, James Conner, T.J. Yeldon, and Leonard Fournette.
I forgot James Conner.
So, oh man, the reason I say this is interesting too is Le'Veon Bell, James Conner. Obviously, you're getting about a half a season out of each of them. T.J. Yeldon, Leonard Fournette. I'm gonna go ahead and say James Conner here because he's gonna get me out of the gate with what we know already very, very quick. And there's no guarantee when Bell will be back. We only have rumors. They've said the bye week. But we're not sure. And even when he does, there's no guarantee that Connor isn't still going to see some work with as well as he's performed. So I'll go ahead and take James Conner there.
All right. I actually had hoping you were going to skip James Conner because he was going to be the guy I was going to go after. But I'll go ahead and get my next four here. Starting to get some of these middle tier running backs. Carlos Hyde, Brandon Cooks, and then the New England pairing of James White and Sony Michel. And I'm actually going to go with James White, who I really like how he profiles the rest of the year with them not having another running back on the roster, and he's already given you a couple top 12 performances over the last couple weeks to start the season.
All right.
Dan, you're in the early
Oh
fourth.
my God, this gets brutal.
Right?
We're gonna go with one of my favorite running backs to come into this year. So we have Delvin Cook, Jarvis Landry, Cooper Kupp, and Chris Thompson. You have the floor receivers with high upside in Landry and Kupp. You have a PPR back in Chris Thompson. And you have Cook, who's been banged up and has a lot of upside in a high-powered offense. I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp here because this offense is unreal at this point. He's been arguably one of their more consistent receivers, and he looks to have taken the next step over these last 2 weeks against tough matchups.
Agree with that. All right, so I'm coming around the corner here with I got T.Y. Hilton, Kenny Galladay, Matt Breida, and Emmanuel Sanders here. Galladay being the obvious standout that has just completely outperformed expectations. It's still going to be T.Y. Hilton for me, even though he's missed a couple weeks with a hamstring. I think when he's in, he's a locked and loaded wide receiver one. And right now being third round, I would take that. We've seen him bounce back and perform with Andrew Luck.
All right, and this is where I get to Mr. Mark Ingram, along with Robert Woods, Alex Collins, and Corey Davis are the four that I'm looking at here. I don't know if I want to handle the suspension, and I kind of could use a second receiver, so I'm actually going to go ahead and grab Robert Woods here to pair with my first four picks.
All right. I don't even know what I have right now.
Well,
okay.
we're back to Dan.
I'm just
We're
looking
back
at
to
the
Dan.
teams. I haven't even.
I wasn't even paying attention to teams. I was just going off my rankings, but I guess we should pay attention to teams too since this is a mock draft.
I do like the
I ended up with pretty good balance though, on accident.
Yeah.
Completely on accident.
All right, so my next four. Oh, this is pretty laughable. LaShawn McCoy, Allen Robinson, Chris Carson, and I'm going to throw a curveball up here and throw in John Brown. So McCoy gets the upside. Robinson has the offense that's looking to get better and being the number one in there. Chris Carson is the number one in a Seattle offense that wants to start running the football a hell of a lot more, and John Brown is just a big play machine. I'm going to go with McCoy. And I know I have to battle through some of the beginning of the tough weeks, but it looks like the offense and him himself is finally starting to get going in a positive direction.
And maybe gets traded to Philly.
And maybe he gets traded here to Philly. That and just there's a lot of upside to him. I don't like these picks, but that's where we're at this point.
All right.
Speaking of not liking picks, my next four: Patrick Mahomes, Amari Cooper, Sammy Watkins, Doug Baldwin. Yes, Mahomes is my quarterback one right now.
At
Here's mine
this
too.
point, yeah.
For me, I've got to say it's got to be Sammy Watkins here for me, I think. I wanted to say Patrick Mahomes, but there's still, Kirk Cousins, Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, a lot of not parity at the quarterback position. And Doug Baldwin, inconsistent start, missed the first few weeks. We don't really know if he's going to pan out yet or not. Amari Cooper, inconsistent target volume. So Sammy Watkins for me is the most consistent option that's there for me.
All right. And my next four are Devonta Freeman, Adrian Peterson, Aaron Rodgers, and Drew Brees is kind of where we're at. I think I'm actually going to go Adrian Peterson. He already might have won you 2 weeks to start the season, and he's looked pretty good when he's touched the ball.
Right.
Gets me a third running back here in the first couple rounds. So yeah, just for the teams that we ended up drafting and kind of our quick top 60 rankings there, Dan grabbed Todd Gurley, Adam Thielen, Zach Ertz, Cooper Kupp, and LaShawn McCoy. Hopper in the middle picks grabbed Antonio Brown, Kareem Hunt, James Conner, T.Y. Hilton, and Sammy Watkins. And from drafting from the late position in each round, I got Michael Thomas, Jordan Howard, James White, Robert Woods, Adrian Peterson. So definitely there's some similarities to what we saw at the start of the year, but definitely a lot of shakeups there.
Yeah, some guys that really jump out as shakeups. I think Adam Thielen in the second. A lot of people had digs above him. He's really jumped up and performed. Cooper Kupp was a 6th-round pick who jumped up 2 rounds in this because of his early season performance, and he's been amazing.
Yep, Woods did as well.
Yep, as did Sammy Watkins up into the 5th. James Conner, nobody really expected Lev Bell to hold out. And then James White being up that high also. So just some surprises there with the redraft of how things have ended up. James White's been fantastic.
You said one bad week.
Yep.
That was before the Burkhead injury, and everything was so kind of meh there.
All right, so that's all we got for that segment there. Hopefully you guys had some fun with that.
All right, we got more questions.
Sure.
Should I trade Phillip Lindsay for Cam Newton in a full PPR? My other running backs are Zeke Mixon, Sony Michel, Mark Ingram. Current quarterbacks are Dalton and Derek Carr.
Yes, I would do this.
Yeah, I'd make the trade, cut Carr, and then figure out something else to pick
Yeah,
up.
I mean, it's all depth here. Lindsey still has to battle Royce, for touches, and we don't know just based on his size and based if even if he can continue to get this volume, is if his body can stay.
Yeah, and
take that punishment.
And with Zeke Mixon, Sony Ingram, you've got really good running back depth, to say the least. So pairing Cam Newton with Andy Dalton to kind of rotate them through tough matchups. You got Dalton, who's overperformed so far this season. Cam Newton, who we're consistently having to rank as a top 7 quarterback, at least. Yeah,
you sound so begrudgingly about that.
It is, but I would absolutely do that if you can pull that off. I love that value.
All right. Any other questions, or is it just the one?
It's just the one.
All right.
And then he gave us some beer and said, "Here you go, everyone." Just a bunch of cheers. So cheers.
Thank you, sir.
Cheers to the camera for the 2 of us that have.
Cheers to from 2 of us.
From the 2 of us that aren't dying. No
Nick
problem.
will cheers vodka. I mean water.
No problem, Michael. All right. Start sits.
Start sits of the week.
Or should we? When are we doing a beer review?
After start sits, we'll review it.
What do we have after that?
For Thursday preview?
Oh, right. Where are my start? Oh, right. I forgot my soundboard dumped. So how are you guys today?
I'm doing not so great.
How's the sickness?
I'm down with it.
Start 'em, sit 'em.
So I just want to say I'm angry with both of you.
For what?
Because you originally, I think your running back start sit before you switched it out.
It was no. He deleted mine because he thought they were last week, so he took 2 of mine. So I had originally had mine up there,
So
and then he deleted it.
So what that means is that literally you had 3. When I first opened the document, you had 3 of the 4 guys I wanted to put in as start sits.
Winston, Carson, and Brait.
Yes, Winston, Carson, and Brait. Which means that Dan had 2 of the. Who were your 2 that he had?
Winston, Carson.
Winston Carson.
Okay, so there is all 3 of us are consensus on.
So
this,
we all
right?
like Winston and Carson this week. That's good.
Yeah, let's go through this though. We're apparently a lot in agreement this week, and I had to go to like the B team to get my start sits filled out.
There's some C teams in here too.
Yep. Dan, go ahead and give us your quarterback start of the week since we're all in agreement on it.
All right, so Jameis Winston, spoiler alert there. He's fresh off a bye week. He's the perfect replacement if you lost Breeze or Stafford to the bye week this week. He plays against an Atlanta defense that has been garbage against QBs this year. They've given up the 4th most on the season to the position at 24.4 points per game. They've given up 12 passing touchdowns and 287 yards per game in these 5-game span. Over his career, though, Winston has thrown 12 touchdowns to just 2 picks against Atlanta. This is in 5 games, and he's averaged 250 yards. This is a lock and loaded QB1 play this week.
We don't disagree since we, both wanted to use Jameis Winston. He's my quarterback 5 this week.
4
for
me.
I think he's my 9 or 10, and that's just...
There you go.
You bastard. You shouldn't have taken him then.
Right, we were both higher than you.
Well, I was the first one to think of it.
I thought of it first. I just didn't write it down. I thought of it last night. I didn't write it in because the document wasn't there, and I was smart enough to realize that the document wasn't there and not put it in last week's.
That wouldn't help you at all. All right, Hopper.
So I had to go to option B since option 1 was Jameis Winston. My option B was Phillip Rivers. This is more about the streak he's on than it is necessarily about Cleveland being terrible against quarterbacks because they're not. They have given up good weeks to Carr and Breeze. But Phillip Rivers has a 5-week streak of multiple pass touchdowns. He's given you absolutely no duds. And Cleveland, it's not the best matchup he could possibly have. It's not a walk-all-over matchup anymore. With as good as he's been, the weapons he has, it's a relatively safe mid to back-end quarterback 1 start for Phillip Rivers this week.
And the defense is banged up, so they really can't keep games close by just, running the football and letting the defense take care of it this side of the field. He's got to throw a little bit more.
I'm not worried about game script in this one at all.
Exactly.
Yep, nothing to add about that one. Rivers has been awesome as someone who heavily invested him in multiple leagues this year. My start of the week is Jared Goff. I know some people are worried about him running into the Broncos, but don't be fooled. Their defense has been below average this year against opposing quarterbacks, which was really put on point in what we saw in last week's game where the Jets absolutely torched them deep. They're all giving up the 14th most points against quarterbacks. Top of it, it looks like both Kupp and Cooks are on track to play this week. They both took place in walkthroughs this morning. They're missed practice this evening, but they're going through the progression here, and it's very likely they can suit up against the Broncos this week. And also, there are some rumors of snow, which are freaking some people out. Snow does not really affect the passing game that much. It's still going to be a good opportunity for Goff to go out there and get you some fantasy points. He's currently the QB5, and I like him to keep that spot through this week.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, snow as long as it's not a blizzard is fine. It's wind, wetness, which...
It's really just wind at this point because they keep the balls as dry as they possibly can, even if it rains or snows.
Yep.
All right. Start of the week, Dan, you stole mine.
And mine.
All right. Well, before we get to that, we have a question from Jimmy again. How do you guys think Wentz will do tomorrow? We will be talking about this a little bit later. But any quick thoughts?
Yeah, Wentz is he's a top 6 quarterback. I think he'll be absolutely fine against the Giants. He has not missed really a step since he came back. I have zero worries about Carson Wentz this week. I think that he's going to give you your normal Wentz performance, 2 to 3 touchdowns, some rushing yards to go with it, 250 or more passing yards.
I am not as confident because the Giants' pass defense has actually been very good this year. I've got him as a high-end streamer, not a QB1 this week.
I think I'm where Nick is mostly, but we'll get to that game a little bit later on. So we'll move back to the starts of the week here. Thanks for the question, Jimmy, by the way. My running back here, I guess, is the consensus running back is Chris Carson. He gets the Raiders this week. They've allowed the 5th most points to running backs this season at 24.82. They've given up the 6th most yards per carry at 4.9, the 5th most yards per game at 127.2, and tied for the 3rd most rushing touchdowns with 6. Fantastic matchup. as I mentioned earlier, Chris Carson or the Seahawks are starting to be more balanced with this, realizing that their offensive line is horrible, so they want to keep the pressure off of Wilson and that offensive line by running the football a shit ton. We saw that last week, and Carson is the most talented back, it looks like, amongst these three. I'm not that concerned about Mike Davis.
Nope.
Though Mike Davis is also startable in this matchup.
He is.
Yes.
I just looked at it, and Chris Carson, because of what runners specifically have done, really jumped off the page to me.
Well, they've been destroyed
We
by
all
pure runners.
As we said in the intro to this segment, we all three tried to make Chris Carson our running back start of the week.
Let's hope he actually pans out then.
All right.
That's the show.
Hopper?
My running back start of the week is Tariq Cohen. 21 touches last time out as they finally used him in the screen game, downfield, and as a running back. Dolphins are giving up 50.5-ish receiving yards per game, 3 receiving touchdowns over 5 weeks. They're torched by James White and Bilal Powell. I really like Tariq Cohen this week from an efficiency standpoint. Even if he doesn't get the 21 touches, even if he's in the 12 to 15 range, I still think he's gonna do some good things. I think that they finally figured out how to use their offense last week with using Cohen more in the screen game, running Gabriel more downfield, and I think that bodes well actually for both players. But Tariq Cohen's a fine start this week against a Miami run defense that is giving up, I believe, the 6th most points to running backs.
Yeah, this is a defense that's a lot better against quarterbacks, which we'll get to momentarily.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then my start of the week is the aforementioned TJ Yeldon. He should see pretty much all of the work here against the Cowboys. And the Cowboys at this point in the season have allowed at least 10.5 fantasy points in half PPR to every opposing running back one they face. The average being 15.1 fantasy points per game.
Whew.
So Jamal Charles is a nice change of pace back, but Yeldon is going to get fed here, and it should be at minimum a floor game for him, and I'd like him getting into the end zone at least once. So I like him shooting for that 15-1 or higher this week. Start away.
Mm-hmm.
Wide receiver. Dan, your wide receiver start of the week.
I'm gonna go with Calvin Ridley. This is more so chasing the matchup. Yes, there's concern with his snap share compared to what's new and Jones are getting, but this is a perfect matchup for him. The Bucks have given out 32.4 points per game to the wide receivers this year, over 2 touchdowns a game and 185.5 receiving yards. This is a great get right game for him, starting with a lot of confidence.
All right. Then Hopper, you go back to show favorite.
Yep. Running to show favorite, I'm going to go with Chris Godwin. The wide receivers were the one things that we didn't all agree on. I'm going to go Chris Godwin, though. Atlanta's giving up 2 touchdowns a week to wide receivers. They've given up 3 100-yard games all season. They're allowing the 5th most wide receiver points. Godwin has had one kind of iffy game against the Bears, and everything else has been very good. The Bears have a very good defense that's well documented. This game is going to be a shootout. I love Chris Godwin this week.
I actually had Chris Godwin put in and then switched out for Calvin Ridley, so I agree with you.
Calvin Ridley is, I think, ranked 1 spot behind Chris Godwin this week for me.
Yeah.
All right. And I went with Robert Woods, who's the only guaranteed top 3 receiver to start for the Rams this week. It's possible that you could see Kupp or Cooks or both miss this week. Top of it, speed threat is the way that has absolutely killed the Broncos this season. Every single week so far, Tyler Lockett, Seth Roberts, John Brown, Tyreek Hill, Robbie Anderson, the speediest receiver on each of those respective teams, has scored at least 10 points against the Broncos so far this season.
So what you're saying is if Brandon Cooks plays.
If Brandon Cooks plays, also rubber stamp him for a good week. I just think he's the least likely to play.
I think so, too, because he just got fucking smoked.
He died a little bit.
But yeah, so speed receivers have absolutely killed the Broncos, so I love Woods for sure and Cooks as a possibility as a deep threat this week.
Do you temper your love for Woods if Cooks plays?
I do not. I'm fully confident in him.
All right.
Moving on to the tight ends. Dan, you're going to meditate with us.
Yes. CJ Uzomah. Is that right?
Uzomah.
I'm just going for the Uzomah. What? You know me. I'm terrible at pronouncing names. Anyways, going on.
He was almost mine. I had him written in, then I switched it.
This one's very simple. You start your tight ends against Pittsburgh. This paid off for me and the show last week. Hopefully you decided to take the dive with us. This is a deeper streaming option. This isn't the one you're going to go, throw out there, over maybe a guy like Brait or or Ebron if he goes or something like that. But this is one where if you're kind of down on the luck with tight ends and you want to take a dart throw, this is a position that has destroyed the Steelers this year. They've given up the most targets and most receptions, second most yards, and the second most touchdowns to the tight ends this year.
Yep. So you're just going to go back to that. Well, it worked out for you last week. Hopefully,
Let's try to make it 2-0 or two in a row. 2 in a row for this one. Let's go.
All right.
All right, Hopper.
David Njoku. They said this is the one thing Hugh Jackson didn't lie about, I think, in his entire coaching career. They said that they were going to scale back Antonio Callaway. They did that. Njoku was the beneficiary of that. He saw double-digit targets with Callaway's diminishing role. The Chargers were burnt by George Kittle last week. They haven't really historically been bad against tight ends, but I do firmly believe that Njoku is the second-best pass catcher, especially if Rashard Higgins misses. So I think this is going to be a little bit more of an offensive game between them and Los Angeles, so I would go ahead and run him out there.
All right, and then mine is the aforementioned Cameron Brate. He is Jameis Winston's nookie.
Mm-hmm.
So
he did it all for the nookie.
In the red zone, he that's who he's going to throw to. Over-under in this game is 57, so there are going to be red zone attempts to go around.
There should be.
Brate is the last man standing at tight end with Howard out. There's no one else to look at it, and even if this is kind of a floor day, the Falcons' average is 4.8 receptions, 45.8 yards a game. That's even above the floor tight end game that you're generally searching for.
Yeah.
So go ahead and start him. He should get you at least 5-6 fantasy points at his base minimum, and I expect more than that and a more than 50-50 shot at getting a touchdown.
Agreed.
All right, sits of the week. Dan, you're telling us to bench somebody. You scored over 50 points.
Yep. This is a little bit tough to do. I'm throwing some shade on a guy who just, threw 6 touchdown passes in week 4. Talking about Mitchell Trubisky here. It's great to see. I know as he's wearing the Bears shirt. It's great to see what this offense did against the horrendous Bucs defense. But now they get a Dolphins team that's been very good against quarterbacks this year. They've only given up 6 passing touchdowns in 5 games. They've intercepted the ball 10 times. That's twice per game, which leads the league. Yes, they give up a lot of yards, but they get a lot of turnovers here. There's a lot of better options for you to get this week. They are the second fewest, or they've given up the second fewest points to QBs this year, just 12.59. I still like Trubisky, and if he comes out and, it makes me look stupid, I'll feel even better about him. But I'm just saying, don't just, chase the points. You got to still play the matchups.
I agree. Hopper?
Dion Lewis. No, I agree with that assessment. Also, I wouldn't recommend running him out there in this one. It's something you want to see multiple weeks for Trubisky.
Yep.
Anyway, my sit of the week is Dion Lewis. Baltimore has not allowed jolly jack shit to receiving running backs. They haven't allowed one over 35 yards. They've given up no receiving touchdowns. That's where Lewis primarily makes his hay. This is a Derrick Henry week. They are slightly worse against the run, although they're not bad there either. So I'd really try to avoid both, but definitely Dion Lewis for sure they're just not giving anything up in the receiving game to this position.
This was almost mine. I almost made a Dion Lewis too.
All right, Nick, your sit of the week.
All right, my sit of the week is Royce Freeman. I see some people still trying to trot him out there, but his touches are going down. He's averaging a little over 10 a game right now, but it's been back-to-back weeks where he's been at 8 touches. On top of it, Rams should be up early in this game, and he's just gotten game scripted out when the Broncos are losing. As soon as the Broncos start losing, it turns they pull out Freeman and they put in Devontae Booker, which is a horrible sight to see, but unfortunately that's what they're doing as an offense.
Avoid this backfield.
Avoid the backfield completely. Lindsey is the only startable one. Do not start Royce Freeman.
I agree. I have this backfield ranked way down this week. There are I think Lindsey and Freeman are both running back 4s.
I think I have Lindsey as a low 2 and Freeman as a 4.
I haven't ranked them yet, but it's gonna be low for.
I do have Lindsey.
I don't like the situation there at all.
Lindsey might be a 3 for me. He's over Freeman. I know that.
All right, that's all we got for our sits of the week. Let's review a beer.
Burr.
Let's review a beer.
Are you gonna review a beer, Nick?
I am not.
You gonna review the water you've been drinking?
Delicious.
Would you like at least a sip to
No,
review?
I do not.
Wow.
I feel like he's not able to effectively perform his duties.
Yes.
I am absolutely not able to effectively perform my duties. All right. What did you guys think of 18th Street's Hunter?
It's very, very good. First off, I love 18th Street's can art.
Yes.
Let's just start with that. They have some of the best can art that I've ever seen. It's a golden dragon on the front of this. Check out our Instagram at BeerfieldFF for that. Hashtag shameless self-promotion.
For always, it's got rich dark or dark chocolate notes running throughout the entire.
I would agree. The dark chocolate definitely hits you on the nose.
It's very smooth. I don't know how heavy it is and comes, in terms of alcohol, but I don't really taste
8%.
which does a good job of masking the 8% alcohol that it is in there.
It's very creamy on the mouthfeel, too.
It is.
As is expected from a double milk stout. Like you said, dark chocolate throughout, but has a nice creaminess, finishes almost a little bit nutty.
Yeah.
But coffee. That's what it is.
There it is.
Yes, it's coffee. So you got a nice little coffee feel at the end of it, a little bit of vanilla. Caramel doesn't really pop out for me like they said in the description, but it could be because I'm drinking it out of a can and not out of the bubble glass like we're supposed to.
Yeah, I don't really taste that. I don't really taste the caramel either, but it's a very, very
It's very good.
smooth. And
It's supposed to be
Very
just a caramel
tasty.
sweetness, so maybe that's some of the kind of roasted malt flavors, part of that.
Well, also you're not really supposed to drink stouts out of cans. We just break that rule all the goddamn time. So
I do
We're only
enough dishes,
semi-classy.
goddammit.
we're only semi-classy.
yeah, well we don't have the right glasses anyway.
That's true too.
But overall, very, very good beer. Very, very drinkable, especially for a double milk stout. It's really solid. 18th Street did good on this.
Very good job.
All right.
Best thing to come out of Hammond, Indiana.
I don't even know where Hammond, Indiana is.
It's up by Chicago. Shout out River Rats.
All right. Moving on to our last segment is our Thursday night preview. Eagles at the Giants.
Wait, there's a drop for that.
There is a drop for that.
There's a drop for that. There's a drop for this. It's like the old Apple commercial. There's an app for that back in the day. The Wednesday.
It's always a Wednesday.
It's always a Wednesday.
Weekly preview.
So not gonna lie, I was freaking out for half the episode, thinking I forgot to write a weekly preview, and then I remembered that that wasn't me.
Nope, it was me.
Did she catch you in the shower?
It wasn't me. She even got me on camera.
It wasn't me.
All right. So it's Eagles at the Giants. Eagles favored by 3 on the road. 44-point over-under. Dan, you got this one.
All right, we'll start with the Eagles here as the away team. As we talked about earlier with Carson Wentz, this is a tough matchup on paper for him, but he's starting to heat up. He's had back-to-back QB1 finishes. These last 2 weeks here was over 300 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns in both of these games. But the lack of the running game is concerning a little bit, though, but I still think that Wentz is a back in QB1 for this week. As for the running backs here, this is kind of where the biggest talking point is. Clement looks to be 100% coming into this game, which to me suggests she'll be the starting running back and has high ceiling. The Giants have been below average against running backs this season. They've given up just over 4 yards per carry with 4 rushing touchdowns, and they're also below average against pass-catching backs. The split between both Clement and Smallwood in Week 3 was 19 touches for Clement and 13 for Smallwood. I think they're both considered mid to low flex options. I would lean Clement in this matchup because I think he gets the start. For the receivers here, yes, it's good to see that Alshon Jeffrey's back. He's had one good game. He's had one meh game, but he's got 17 targets. I think 9 in Week 3 and then 9 in Week 4. Then last week he had 8. So volume shouldn't be that much of a problem. The Giants have been good against receivers this year, though. So Jeffrey is more of a potential low 2 to high 3. They've given up the third fewest points at 19.24 points per game, the fourth fewest receptions, the eighth fewest yards, and the third fewest touchdowns. So potential just a floor game for Jeffrey. With all that said, I think Aguilar here is just a wide receiver 4, low end flex option. He hasn't had he's had 2 games of less of either 5 or less targets. The other game he had 12. He has had no games over 50 yards. I would probably not roll out Aguilar. Zach Ertz is a must start. I mean, because we haven't talked about kickers enough here. The Giants are the worst against kickers this season. They've given up 15 field goals. That is 3 field goals per game. So Jake Elliott, throw him out there.
Such a weird thing. Like, how do you even correlate that?
Nope, I know. I just I'm like, that's a lot of field goals, potential points. Anyways, anything on the Eagles?
No.
In this game. All right, Giants here. This is a lot easier. The Eagles have not been great against QBs this season, but I have no faith in Eli Manning. I am not starting him. because he's given you a lot of weird weeks. Saquon Barkley and Odell Beckham are obvious must-starts, so you're rolling them out there, no problem. Now, Sterling Shepard is a very intriguing play this week. The Eagles have given up the 4th most points per game to receivers this season. They've given up the most receptions, 3rd most yards, and the 8th most touchdowns. Without Evan Ingram and a banged-up Red Elliston, there's just not very many players that they can throw to. So I love Shepard this week as a streaming flex option for the receiver. You're not going to play Brett Elliston even if he isn't banged up, and you're not going to play the defensive kicker. And that's that.
All right, so that is it for Thursday night. Remember, if you have any Thursday night players, do not start them in a flex spot. Get them in a running back or wide receiver or tight end position. Anything else we want to add?
Why do we do that, Nick?
Because you can
Why,
increase
Mom?
the
Why?
flexibility of the position and possibly save it in case somebody gets hurt or somebody gets suspended or something weird happens in between Thursday and Sunday.
Somebody gives you a dud and you need to hit a home run, more or less.
Oh, that would be an option as well.
Yep.
Yeah, if you run into a Thursday night blow up and you were like, oh, well, my flex position was used to start Wendell Smallwood, who gave me 6, and I just ran into, for some reason, Eli Manning and Odell Beckham going off for 80. Now I have to figure out how to handle this.
It's when you try to hit a home run.
Yep.
You just have more flexibility to do that.
Yep. All right, so for the rest of the week, we are not having a Friday episode. We are recording tomorrow, so be back here tomorrow night, same time, same place, and we'll go ahead and do our live episode then.
Yep.
We'll be previewing all the games, so as soon as we stop recording this, I'm immediately going to start prepping for tomorrow.
I've already got
I get to go to work.
I've already got most of mine done. That will be I don't want to say my last episode in studio because I'll definitely be back for some of those, but my last regular episode in studio.
Yeah, it'll be surprise drop-ins as opposed to regularly scheduled
Regularly
programming.
We'll have a
scheduled.
surprise hopper drop.
I'll still be here, but it'll be remotely, so please tune in for that.
Yep, so we can kind of give him a send-off for that episode there. Hopefully, I will be feeling well enough to actually drink beer with him tomorrow. We'll see how that's going.
No, you will.
I expect you, even if you're not, I expect you to suffer on my behalf.
Yes. He suffered with us for a long time.
I am on medication that's like, you do not drink with this. So.
Antibiotics?
No, it's other stuff.
Cocaine.
It is all the cocaine.
It's a
my new
hell of a drug.
My new weight loss program.
Oh, Jesus. I got to go.
All right. Well, Dan's peacing out. We'll be back Sunday as well to answer all your start-sit questions.
You can keep going.
And we'll catch you guys next time on Beerfield Fantasy Football.
See ya. I just felt like cocaine was a good time to hit the outro. That was all.
Cocaine.
And that's what the stream's going to end on.